Good morning, men. And so, yes, Ephesians chapter 5, if you would open there. And we would like to welcome the guests from the Fuel Conference, which is Man in the Mirror's annual meeting, which started last night. Trainings actually started Sunday night. So a number of those men are joining us here today. So I wonder if you'd join me in welcoming the men from Fuel. An honor to have you with us. And I saw our new annual report. We'll get you guys a copy of it here eventually, but just saw it. And so I was pretty excited. This morning, I didn't run the math till this morning. I just saw it on the screen last night at the meeting. So we just hit, for this Bible study, 6,000 downloads per week. 6,000 others are joining us each week, and as you know, many of those are doing small groups. We really don't know how many people are in the Bible study. But anyway, it's a lot. And so we do a shout out each week to a group, and today the group is to the Enterprise Baptist Men's Group. 6 guys. They've been meeting for a year at church on Sundays at 5:30 p.m. James Taylor is their leader. They belong to the Enterprise Baptist Church in Enterprise, Mississippi, and which I guess is near Meridian. And so I wonder if you would join me in giving a rousing man in the mirror welcome to Enterprise Baptist Men's Group. 1, 2, 3, hoorah! Welcome, guys. We're glad to have you with us. Okay? So the series that we're doing here is Marriage in the Man in the Mirror. Now, you should know that I timed this series to happen when Fuel would be taking place so that those people who chose to come to the Bible study from Fuel would be able to be in on this marriage deal. And the reason for that is that if we were to take all of the problems that we deal with as men, and this is something that we have learned at Man in the Mirror over the years, if you take all of the problems with which we deal and we put the marriage prayer over here by itself in one silo, and then we take all of the other problems with which men struggle and put them over here in a second silo, the marriage silo by itself is bigger than all of the other problems that men face combined. Easily, the number one problem that men face in a general way is that their marriages don't work the way that God intended them to work. So, we're going to be looking at Ephesians chapter 5, as I said earlier. Now, I've been teaching on marriage and writing on marriage for 30 years. So I've covered a lot of waterfront, but I want to show you a little bit of a different angle this morning. We did a little series, guys, for you who are not normally here, on sex and the man in the mirror, which of course is a huge piece of the marital relationship. So one of the guys that sits at this table right here, he's not here this morning, he's a little bit of an older gentleman. And so I was leaving the parking lot, and he was driving out, and he pulled up, he rolled down his window. He said, "I just want you to know, even at my age," he said, "it's not like eating and sleeping anymore, but it's still good." The angle that I want us to take a look at this morning is I married a woman I couldn't change. Amen. You probably married the same woman. Now, some of you are not married, and of course the principles that we're talking about in here apply to relationships in a very general way, but also if you have a woman or a companion or a friend that you're not married to, and some of these principles would apply there as well. And so when I say that I married a woman I couldn't change, what I'm really talking about is the first thing, right? Irreconcilable differences. All those irreconcilable differences. So I'm going to share with you a piece from Dave Barry. Some of you are familiar with. He's a columnist and a humorist. And I'm going to read this because it's so long. Let's say a guy named Roger is attracted to a woman named Elaine. He asks her out to a movie. She accepts. They have a pretty good time. A few nights later, he asks her out to dinner again, and they enjoy themselves. They continue to see each other regularly, and after a while, neither one of them has seen anyone else. And then one evening, when they're driving home, a thought occurs to Elaine. And without really thinking, she says it out loud. Do you realize that as of tonight, we have been seeing each other for exactly 6 months? And then there is silence in the car. To Elaine, it seems like a loud silence. She thinks to herself, gee, I wonder if it bothers him that I said that. Maybe he's feeling confined by our relationship. Maybe he thinks I'm trying to push him into some kind of obligation that he doesn't want or isn't sure of. And Roger is thinking, gosh, 6 months. And Elaine is thinking, but hey, I'm not so sure I want this kind of relationship either. Sometimes I wish I had a little more space so I'd have time to think about whether I really want to keep going the way we are, moving steadily. I mean, where are we going? Are we just going to keep seeing each other at this level of intimacy? Are we headed toward marriage, toward children, toward a lifetime together? Am I really ready for that level of commitment? Do I really know this person? And Roger is thinking, so that means it was, let's see, February. It was February when we started going out, which was right after I had the car at the dealer's, which means, let me check the odometer. Whoa! I'm way overdue for an oil change here. And Elaine is thinking, he's upset. I can see it on his face. Maybe I'm reading this completely wrong. Maybe he wants more from a relationship, more intimacy, more commitment. Maybe he sensed, even before I sensed it, that I was feeling some reservations. Yes, I bet that's it. That's why he's so reluctant to say anything about his feelings. He's afraid of being rejected. And Roger is thinking, and I'm going to have them look at that transmission again. I don't care what those morons say, it's still not shifting right. And they better not try to blame it on cold weather this time. What cold weather? It's 87 degrees. And this thing is shifting like a garbage truck. And I paid those incompetent thieves $600. And Elaine is thinking, he's angry. And I don't blame him. I'd be angry too. I feel so guilty putting him through this, but I can't help the way I feel. I'm just not sure. And Roger is thinking, they'll probably say it was a 90-day warranty. Scumbags. And Elaine is thinking, maybe I'm too idealistic, waiting for a knight to come riding in on a white horse. When I'm sitting right next to a perfectly good person, a person I enjoy, a person I truly do care about, a person who seems to truly care about me, a person who is in pain because of my self-centered schoolgirl romantic fantasy. And Roger is thinking, warranty? They want a warranty. I'll give them a warranty. I'll take their warranty and stick it in their ear. Roger, Elaine says aloud. What? Says Roger, startled. Please don't torture yourself like this, she says, her eyes beginning to brim with tears. Maybe I should never have, I feel so, and she breaks down sobbing. What? Says Roger. I'm such a fool. Elaine sobs. I mean, I know there's no night. I really know that. It's silly. There's no night and there's no horse. You think I'm a fool, don't you? Elaine said. No, says Roger, glad to finally know the correct answer. And then Elaine says, it's that I need some time. There's a 15-second pause while Roger, thinking as fast as he can, tries to come up with a safe response. Finally, he comes up with one that he thinks might work. Yes, he says. Elaine, deeply moved, touched his hand. Oh, Roger, do you really feel that way? She says. What way? Says Roger. That way about time, she says. Oh, yes, says Roger. Elaine turns to face him and gazes deeply into his eyes, causing him to become very nervous about what she might say next, especially if it involves a horse. At least she speaks. Thank you, Roger, she said. Thank you, says Roger. And then he takes her home, and she lies on her bed, a conflicted, tortured soul, and weeps until dawn. When Roger gets back to his place, he opens a bag of Doritos, turns on the TV, and immediately becomes deeply involved in a rematch of a Czechoslovakian tennis match of players he's never heard of, and a tiny voice in the far recess of his mind tells him that something major was going on back there in the car, but he's pretty sure there's no way he would ever understand what, and so he figures it's better if he doesn't spend time thinking about it. The next day, Elaine calls her close friend, actually two of them, and they talk about the situation for 6 straight hours. In painstaking detail, they will analyze everything she said and everything he said, going over it time and time again, exploring every word, expression, and gesture for the nuance of meaning, considering every possible ramification. They will continue to discuss this subject on and off for weeks, maybe months, never reaching any definite conclusions, but never getting bored of it either. Meanwhile, Roger, while playing racquetball one day with a mutual friend of his and Elaine's, will pause just before serving, frown, and say, Norm, did Elaine ever own a horse? Well, the most obvious difference between men and women, and the most obvious source of irreconcilable differences, is male-female. It's just the whole gender thing. But there are lots of other things that cause what we consider to be, at least, irreconcilable differences. You'll notice I have it in quotes. So what are some of the other things? Just maybe that something that occurs to you off the top of your mind. Something that is an irreconcilable difference, generally thought of that way. What are a few ideas?
I like a table, she likes a booth.
What's that?
I like a table, she likes a booth.
Table, booth, okay.
I like it cooler and she likes it hotter in the house.
Cooler and hotter, okay, so, right, got it. What else?
She likes to make a decision like right now, and I like to think about it.
Okay, decision-making, differences in decision-making.
Raising kids?
And parenting values and raising kids. These are good. What else? How to spend money. Yeah, what's important financially? For the I didn't know that you liked the Hallmark Channel. That's good to know, though.
Vacation.
Yeah, where to go on vacations. She's neat, he's a slob. Differences in sexual appetites, huge issue. Trust me, talking with men like I do all day, that's a huge issue. What else?
Paint on the wall.
What is it?
Paint on the wall.
Paint on the wall? What's that mean?
Well, different colors.
Different colors, okay.
Earth colors versus pastels or wallpaper.
I didn't know that you were into pastels. That's good to know. So, what else? Yeah. She wants your opinion about things you don't care about and doesn't want your opinion about things you do care about, by the way. Yeah. All right. And so then there are other things like, hobbies, communication methods. You talk too much, don't talk enough. Religion. I mean, the list goes on and on, doesn't it? On and on, doesn't it? And so there is a family systems scholar, Edwin Friedman, and he in his book Generation to Generation, he draws a conclusion. It's not actually science, but it's his measured hypothesis, I suppose. And he says that in reality, no marriage scores higher than 70%. When I first read that, I ran it by my wife because I think we have a great marriage. But it rang true to me. It rang true when I read that. And we talked it over, and we pretty much came to an agreement that just as a concept, whether it's, 80-20 or 70-30, 64, who knows. But anyway, this idea of 70%, a score of 70%, that's about right. Because when you put two sinful, self-centered human beings who are trying to not be sinful, self-separated, but you put them together and they're rubbing against each other all day long, there's going to be some friction. And so there are these irreconcilable differences. Now, there's another book that it's not a Christian book, but I would highly recommend it. It's called The Science of Happily Ever After. Toshiro is the author. And but to summarize the book, his basic thesis is that, number one, is that these are my words, but I think it's a fair assessment. Number one, people don't change. People don't change. He makes the point in the book, with a lot of labor, I might add, and science and illustrations, that, engagements don't change people, marriage doesn't change people, babies don't change people, that basically who you marry today is who you're going to be married to for the rest of your life. And that doesn't mean that you can't make improvements, but the basic die is cast. And so people go into marriage thinking they're going to change their spouse, when in reality, most don't. And this is the reason that a lot of marriages really are not happy, because people thought they were going to go in and they were going to change their spouse, and then they find they're unable to do so, and that there are these then differences. Florence Littauer, an author, she wrote, "We are attracted to each other's strengths and then go home to live with each other's weaknesses." Kind of an interesting way of looking at it. And so the other thing, though, is that Toshiro in his book, The Science of Happily Ever After, he points out that yes, people don't change, but the number one predictor of marital happiness is compatibility. Again, that's a paraphrase of what he said, but the primary determiner of marital happiness is compatibility. Just being able to get along. Now, it's figuring out how to leverage the 70%, you see, and then how to manage the 30%, or do a workaround, if you will, on the 30%. Now, I have discovered the secret of compatibility. And it's not divorce. I have discovered the secret of compatibility, and I'm going to share it with you right now, because this is the workaround. This is the workaround on the 30%. When you're married to a woman that you cannot control, or you're involved with a woman that you cannot control, you cannot change, she will not change, and you will not change either. This is the secret, and this is the big idea for the day. The big idea for the day is this: I let you be you, and you let me be me. When I finally figured this out, after 30 years of marriage, This concept completely revolutionized my marriage. Now, I'm not saying it's still not a 70-30 marriage. It is. It's still a 70-30 deal. But this has allowed me to develop a workaround for those 30% of things. Let me just give you like one example. So we're opening up an office in Asia. We've appointed a pilot test, but an international pilot test. We've appointed a continent director for Asia, headquartered out of Singapore. And so he flew into Orlando. And the only time that he could meet was on Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock. And so we also have a man that we're bringing on board part-time at the headquarters to sort of oversee all of this. And he could meet at 4 o'clock. And then Brett Klumber, who's our vice president, who's kind of like in charge of all this stuff, he could meet. So we're meeting at 4 o'clock. Well, we're going to need to leave. We decided to meet at my home office at 4 o'clock. And we're going to need to, I'm going to need to leave. I have 1 hour for the meeting, okay? Because at 5 o'clock, we're going to leave, and we're going to take my wife's parents to dinner. Because taking my wife's parents to dinner is more important to me than being successful in Asia, reaching men. That's where I am, okay? That's my priority. And it's my priority because they're my wife's parents and I love her, and that's her priority. So, my wife says to me, an hour before the meeting, which has been scheduled now for a long time, we need to leave 10 minutes early today. So I got a guy coming all the way from Singapore for a 1 hour meeting that's like already so tight I can barely stand it. And she said, oh, we need to leave 10 minutes early. So I say, why can't I control this woman better? No, I didn't say that. I said, yes, dear. Whatever you say, it's my fault. I won't let it happen again. So anyway, I tell everybody that, I need to leave 10 minutes early, and I push this meeting, and it was awkward. Okay, I'm just telling you, man, it was awkward leaving this meeting. I found out later they actually met in my home office. We weren't even there. They met there for another 2 hours. So there was a lot of stuff. I really blew it on the meeting. Okay. I go downstairs after I leave this meeting so we can leave 10 minutes early. And I say, okay, let's go. Because I cut it to the second. I said, okay, let's go. She said, oh, I just called him and said we'd be 15 minutes later. I let you be you, whatever you want to do, baby. And you let me be me. So these things happen, okay? They just are there. They're there in every marriage, all right? All right, let's talk a little bit then about the second thing here, which is God's plan for compatibility. David Delk took you last time through the Ephesians chapter as well as the Genesis material. I want us to look at verse 33 in Ephesians chapter 5. And this is God's plan for compatibility. However, each of you must also love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. There it is. This is how you get to the 70%. This is how you get to the 70%. Love and respect. It's loving her just like you would love yourself. You know, when somebody does you wrong, and you can get to the place, anybody, and you can get to the place where you can put yourself in their shoes and see the situation from their perspective, you know that changes everything about it. It's called preferring others. It's called sacrifice. It's called, it's all those things. And so we get her to that 70% by bringing her into the presence of the Lord. And we bring her into the presence of the Lord by loving her as just like we love ourselves. And likewise for her. So, guys, we just, we need to feel like we're respected. The Lord knows that, and so His instruction to the women is to respect their husbands. And this is how we get to the 70%. So, in the marriage prayer, when we say, "Father, I said till death do us part, I want to mean it. Help me to love you more than her, and her more than anyone or anything else. Help me bring her into your presence today. Make us one like you are three in one. I want to hear her, cherish her, and serve her so she would love you more, and we can bring you glory." These 68 words that capture the essence of what the Bible teaches about prayer. So how does that happen? How do you do this compatibility thing? How do you get to this 70% so that you can, we're going to talk about the 30%, but just how do you get to the 70%? Well, how do you love a woman like that? Well, I'm not going to diss a 3-day weekend to the nice hotel and resort and stuff like that. But it's many small kindnesses, just continually done day after day. So my wife, Patsy, shows respect for me. So this may not seem like much to you, but I'm watching way too much TV these days, and we have a TV room. She likes to read, and so I'll go off and watch some TV. And so I'm coming back in through the house, and it's dark. She turns the light on so that I won't have to walk through the room in the dark. Now, I know that doesn't seem like much, but it is so precious to me. And you know what else she does? I cook eggs in the morning before she's up. And every morning when I get up, she has put out an egg pan and a spatula on the stovetop for me. It just amazes me how thoughtful she is. It just shows how much she cares about me. And so, but I do a few things too. So I don't talk to her before she has her coffee. I also make the coffee for her, and I take it to her while she's in bed. I bring her coffee in bed most mornings, or many mornings. And then she has chores for me to do. You have a spouse maybe that has chores for you to do. Maybe you have a spouse that you have chores for her to do. I don't know how it is in your house. But Patsy leaves me little lists. And I used to procrastinate, all right? But you know what I figured out is that acts of service is her love language. She's always doing little kind things for me. And the reason she's doing kind things, because that's how she loves, and that's how she wants to be loved. And so when I finally figured that out, I said, you know what? I'm going to end up doing this stupid chore anyway. Why not just go ahead and do it as soon as I hear about it? And except last week it was changing light bulbs, and it took 2 weeks to do that. But we had, floodlights, in the ceiling. We got up to 4 of them were out. So again, that goes over to the 30%. So the big idea for today is this plan for compatibility is biblically, it's just love and respect. And And I love her by letting her be her. And she respects me by letting me be me. You see how it works? So that's the big idea. I let you be you, and you let me be me. All right, so we're going to wrap it up with one more item here, and that is this idea that compatibility can be learned. This is huge. This is huge. Compatibility can be learned. You can learn to love your wife. She can learn to respect you. So the first part of it is to talk about how you can learn compatibility in the 70%, how you can maybe even make the 70% 72% or something like that. And the answer is for that is prioritizing your marriage. Prioritizing your marriage. If you've been around me at all, you know that my number one big idea about marriage is this. After God, but before all others, make your wife your top priority. After God, but before all others, make your wife your top priority. You are the only two people who are in this thing together. Everyone else, and I mean everyone else, is going to phase in and out of your lives. Even your children, if you're lucky. So prioritize your marriage. A friend of mine I was talking to a couple weeks ago, and he said that when they got married, he was going to work at 5:30 in the morning and coming home at 10 o'clock at night. And on their 5th anniversary, his wife said, you know, you don't need a wife, you need a housekeeper. He wasn't prioritizing his marriage. He made the adjustment. That's part of the early years of marriage, it's making the adjustments as you, and it made all the difference in the world. We had a man, I don't know if he's here today or not, but we had a man at Fuel a few years ago. I know he's here this year. I don't know if he's here this morning, but a few years ago he came and he was jacked up, ramped up, amped up, ready to go on men's discipleship. He caught the vision about men reaching other men, and he was ready to go. But as we got to know each other at Fuel, his marriage was in tatters. It was in shambles. And he had so neglected his wife, he had so disabused her, that it was almost, he didn't say this, but it seemed to me it was almost like he was excited about ministry because it was a way for him not to deal with his marriage. You see what I'm saying? And I told him, I said, look, you've come to Fuel to learn about men's discipleship. I'm sending you home. I don't want you in men's discipleship. Your ministry needs to be your marriage right now. You go make it right with your wife. And then in a few years when God has healed your marriage, then we can talk about men's discipleship. And to his credit, he did that, and she's here with him. It's beautiful. I mean, I've talked to them more than just this week, but I mean, God has done an incredible work in them, and that's what we all need to do. Prioritize your marriage, because no amount of success at the office or on the ministry is ever going to compensate for failure there. All right. And then as to the 30%, just have an intentional plan for the 30%. Have an intentional plan for the 30%. So my wife loves to, so I'm doing 6 chores, okay? I'm hot. I'm sweaty. I'm not handy, but I'm working through that. And I'm on chore number 5. I'm getting ready to do chore number 5. I have the screwdriver in my hand. I'm walking, I'm within 10 feet of where I'm supposed to be. And my wife says, don't forget to do that. she has a way of reminding me to do the chore that I'm getting ready to do right as I'm getting ready to do it. And you know what? It's part of the 30% in my life, okay? Here's the principle. Let the little ones go. Let the little ones go. And work in your heart to have increasingly bigger and bigger ones become more little and little. You see what I'm saying? Let the little ones go. Now we could talk about all kinds of other ideas, but like figure out what our buttons are and then don't push them. These are the kinds of things that will work in the 30%. And the big idea today, I let you be you and you let me be me. Hey, and don't forget, give it some time. Give it some time. I have told the story here. I'll close with this. I noticed that my wife's body was changing. She picked up 20 pounds. And I started putting pressure on her to try and control her, to get her to change, to lose weight, do whatever it takes and so forth. And that went on for, I don't know, probably a couple years. And I just watched her shut down over a period of a couple years. And then I realized what I had done, and I started to, so I'm a social scientist by nature, and so I began to just think and study this problem, and I finally came to this conclusion, 2 questions. If my wife lost 20 pounds, would I love her anymore? If my wife lost 20 pounds, would it make me more happy? And I realized that the answer to those 2 questions was no. I wouldn't love her any more than I already did, and it wouldn't make me any more happy than I am right now. And I decided to move it over into the category of the little ones. Now, I'm a guy, so I told her what my decision was, and I figured, bam, okay, that we solved that problem. Okay, it's on to the next thing. You know what? It was another 2 years until she could trust me again. I had to, if I had been putting in 100 units of labor, to have a normal, I was putting in 200 units of labor in the same amount of time in order to get less of a result. And so the bottom line is that I had broken trust with her, you see. And then, but I kept at it. And one day, she was just sitting on the couch and just out of the blue, she said, I feel safe with you again. You cannot imagine what that did for my heart. Because I come to the conclusion I need to let you be you, and you, of course, are going to let me be me. And that's the big idea for the day. And if you want to have a great marriage, just think about this 70-30 thing, prioritize your marriage, and then figure out, how to have an intentional plan for that other 30%. And this is not a bad plan. There are other plans, but this is not a bad one. I let you be you, and you let me be me. Let's pray. Our dearest Father, Lord, we thank you for women. All the Elaines in the world and their friends who are sitting around talking about who knows what. Wow, what a mystery. We love them. It's exciting to be able to have women. And then, as Chesterton said, having seen one woman as a small, sticking to one woman is a small price to pay for having so much as even seen a woman. And so, Lord, for those of us who have spouses, Lord, I pray that you just help us glean a lesson here today that might help us in a practical way. And for those who are not married in the male-female relationships, something that would help them, or perhaps a more universal principle just in relationships in general. We lay this at the foot of the cross, Jesus, and ask you to give us back the wisdom from on high that we need for our own lives. And we pray it in your name. Amen.
86% of men admit they'd click on a porn site if no one else knew about it. What are you doing to break your temptations online? Covenant Eye's Internet Accountability monitors the websites you visit and the search terms you use on your computer, smartphone, and tablet. Each web page visited is given a rating, similar to TV shows or video games, such as T for teen or M for mature. This information is collected in easy-to-read reports, which provides a comprehensive view of what you see and do online. Accountability works best, obviously, when you talk about your internet use. So invite some friends or your spouse to receive your weekly emailed report. The reports are perfect as a starting point to talk about your online habits. Now, if you're looking for additional protection, Covenant Eyes also provides internet filtering, which blocks inappropriate content and limits time spent online. It's that simple. So sign up today. It's time to start protecting yourself online.